Good, man. Well, cool. Claude, I appreciate you taking the time to come on this morning. You know, been one of my favorite instructors for many, many years, so I just appreciate you taking the time to chat.
Thank you. Happy to do it.
Yeah, so this is the, I believe, first video in a set of videos where our goal is to kind of establish a question I've been asking on many tours, high-level amateurs, all those sort of things for years, right? What's the difference? Ultimately, it's a fact-finding mission for those golfers out there who want to elevate their game to the next level. Maybe it's a sophomore who wants to play Division I golf, scratch who wants to get to plus, or someone like myself, you know, maybe a mini tour guy who's very close but just kind of wants to get to that next level, may gain, you know, a little bit of, you know, from this chat. So as we get started here, I kind of just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk, you know, a little bit for those who don't know about who you are, what kind of players you work with, and then you know, any sort of plugs and different things, sponsors that you'd like to talk about to start off.
You know, yeah, my name's Claude Harmon. I'm director of instruction here at my dad's academy, the Butch Harmon Floridian, in Palm City, Florida. So we're just about 30 minutes north of Jupiter. And then I also have two academies under my brand, Claude Harmon Performance Golf. I have one in Dubai and then just opened up one in Thailand. So we have 8 instructors head up my academy in Dubai, and I think we've got 3 in Thailand. So I was in Dubai in November, and then I'll be in Thailand in about 3 weeks. And then I have my podcast, the Son of a Butch podcast, which normally comes out weekly, and travel on tour, work with players. And yeah, just, you know, I'm just a golf instructor. I mean, I travel a lot, and obviously the work that I've been lucky enough to do with, you know, tour players over the years has been great. But if I'm not on the road, I'm just a golf instructor. I'm at home giving golf lessons to various types of golfers. I would say at this point in my career, a lot of the players, I'd say the majority of the players I work with are trying to compete at some level. So it's a lot of competitive golfers, but I'm still at a private club. I still give our members lessons. I still give beginning golfers lessons, higher handicap golfers lessons. So yeah, the tour stuff I do is a big part of the bulk of the teaching that I do, but I'm just a golf instructor like everyone else.
So week to week for you, you know, what does that look like on tour in terms of how do you delineate what the work is you do with certain players? Is that stats based? Is that more mechanics based? Is it, you know, how do you go about figuring out what work needs to get done?
I think we're lucky if you're working with elite golfers at the tour level. Stats are readily available. So you know, the PGA Tour stats, ShotLink and stuff. And then every tour has some sort of ability to look at performance data, and then all the performance data that we keep with players on our own. Clip data, I think Clipped is huge. A lot of our players are using it. I think the value in a system like that is the more information you put in, the more information you're going to get out. So I'm trying to use anything I can to try and make the player better, whether that's stats, whether that's technology, whether that's whatever that is. I think we're living in an interesting time in golf instruction. I definitely think we're kind of in the information data age of golf instruction. But I do think that it's what you do with data and information that's important. And I think we are in a data crunch right now, and there's a lot of information. But I think the art of coaching and the art of helping players get better is how you give out that information, what information you use. And, you know, information and data just for the sake of data is worthless. It's powerless. What are you going to do with the information that you're going to use with your players?
Yeah, I think that's great. I'd like to touch on a second of, you know, what you feel. Obviously, your dad's one of the most famous instructors of all time. Your family is one of the most famous instruction families of all time. What do you feel you either do similar or different? You know, obviously you've made an incredible name for yourself now. What do you feel like is kind of either different or similar, or what can you give me in terms of the Harmon secret sauce?
I think my dad has always told me that we're teaching people to play golf, not teaching golf to people. You know, my dad never really had a method or a system or a formula. He kind of looks at all the golfers as individuals. And I think I've tried to do that as well. I think you look at every player as an individual. Every player has their own DNA. They have their own kind of signature. So I was never one that believed there was one way to swing the golf club, because if you look at, I mean, if you go to the World Golf Hall of Fame, or if you look at the top 20 players on the PGA Tour, the top 20 players on the LPGA Tour, the top 20 players, Champs Tour, Live, wherever you're going, everybody is going to swing it differently. So I saw a montage video of golf swings of everybody that made it to the Tour Championship last year. And it was just a down the line view of their driver's swing. And I used that I spoke at the Titleist Performance Institute Golf Fitness Summit, and I used that as a slide. And I said, if you have a model in your head of what you think every player should look like, and every player should swing like your model, you're going to lose because everybody's different, right? Everybody's body's different. Some guys are tall, some guys are short, sometimes they're big, sometimes so I think if you have a model in your head, I haven't seen that work. I just have seen too many players achieve great things doing things that no one is teaching. Years ago, like in the early 2000s, when my dad was working with Tiger, and Tiger was the #1 ranked player in the world, and David Duval was the #2 ranked player in the world, and they were kind of hanging out together. And we were in Las Vegas, and Tiger and Duval were in town, and we were hitting balls and watching Tiger hitting balls and Duval hitting balls. And they're both the best players in the world at that time. And my dad's youngest brother, my Uncle Billy, was there. He's a great instructor and caddied on the PGA Tour for Jay Haas for years. And we were watching Tiger and Duval hit balls, and he said, the amazing thing is nobody is trying to teach anyone to swing the golf club like David Duval. Everybody is trying to teach and get people to swing the golf club like Tiger Woods or Adam Scott and super wide. And he said, if you think of two of the greatest ball strikers of all time, Sam Snead, Hale Irwin. Hale Irwin was closed stance, took it inside, came over it, hit fades, very similar to kind of the way Bruce Litsky did that. Lee Trevino took it wide open stance, took it way outside, dropped it under. And my Uncle Billy's point was, we're not teaching Jack Nicklaus is one of the greatest putters of all time. And there is not one putting instructor out there teaching anyone to putt like Jack Nicklaus. He's the greatest, probably other than Tiger Woods, the greatest pressure putter of all time, right? Has the most majors, the icon of our sport. And nobody is trying to teach anyone to putt like Jack Nicklaus. Everybody's trying to teach everybody to putt like Tiger Woods. So having a model, I don't think as a family, I learned from my dad that there isn't one way to do things. I work with players that draw it. I work with players that fade it. I work with players that hit it high. To me, my job as an instructor is to take a look at what the golfer does, what the athlete does, figure out what they can and can't do physically, figure out what they do naturally, figure out what they do well, and then try and make what they do better. I think the negative thing about golf instruction over the last 25 years is Tiger. Tiger has made it fancy, he's made it aspirational, and he's made it sexy to overhaul and completely change your golf swing. He's done it numerous times, but I was around for the first change of the golf swing with Tiger after 97 and got to watch that. That took almost 3 years. The average golfer thinks they're going to change their golf swing. The average mini tour player thinks, I'm hitting fades this year. I'm just going to hit draws now. I'm just going to completely overhaul my golf swing. And that is very difficult to do. It's very labor intensive. It's very time intensive. It's hard to do. And so I think what I've tried to do and what I learned from my father is look at the player as an individual, figure out what they do. I don't have a model in my head of what golf swings should look like. I think technology allows me as an instructor now to change golf swings less than I ever have at any time in my life because I can look at the information. I can put someone on a launch monitor. I can put someone on 3D. I can put someone on force plates. And even though it might not look great on film, if we can figure out if it's functional. People ask me all the time, whose golf swings do you like? And I always answer this the same way. In what way? Aesthetics or performance and function? If it's aesthetics, it's Tommy Fleetwood, it's Nelly Korda, it's Adam Scott, beautifully, technically sound golf swings. If it's function, Bubba Watson, the guy's won 2 green jackets. So for me, I just look at the individual, I look at what they do, and I just think I try and teach them to play golf as opposed to say, this is my idea of what golf is. This is my theory on what the golf swing is. And now I'm going to teach that to you. I think there are instructors out there that do that, that say, listen, this is what I believe. I believe the golf swing should look like this for everybody. I see them. I look at their content on social media. I watch them teach every single golfer the identical same thing. And that was just something that I didn't learn how to do. And I just think that everybody is different. There are some similarities and some common things that all great players do. There are some similarities of things that all average to higher handicappers do. But there are a million different ways to fix the golf swing.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting you bring that up because, I myself have kind of gone down that road of, I have a pretty fundamentally sound golf swing, but it doesn't always translate. And I find under the gun, my old tendencies are always there. Like I think it's probably, I'm starting to learn that it's probably more about managing those tendencies, especially under pressure, and maybe learning to make those better as much as it is like, okay, my arm structure needs to be this, my right elbow needs to be here. Like, we had Ryan Sullivan on the show, who's played in a couple of U.S. Opens, and he was talking about in 2013 when he played at Marion, he was so concerned with how his golf swing looked to the Konica Minolta BizHub swing guy, and obviously he missed the cut. Right, it was first U.S. Open, fresh out of college, missed the cut. And he told me that probably one of the biggest changes that he's had over the course of this year is the fact that he just stopped caring about that and started really focusing on function and performance. And I'm certainly someone, I've just obsessed over my golf swing. And quite frankly, I have a significantly better golf swing, but I'm not really any better. Like, I've been like a +3 or +4 for 2 or 3 years now. And it's like, it's such a fickle thing, but I think it's really interesting to hear you say that.
Well, I think there's playing golf and there's practicing golf. And I think I think there are more people in the game of golf practicing and worrying about their technique than they are about actually playing the game. And that is you have to remember that golf is a game that you are playing. They give you a scorecard. The scorecard tells you what the rules are. They tell you, and the rules of golf never change, right? Every time you go play an 18-hole round of golf, the rules don't change. The object stays the same, right? Now, there's par 70s, there's par 71s, there's par 72s. But other than that, the rules don't change. So they give you a scorecard. They tell you what the object of the game is, and then they say, go play the game. So it is a game you are trying to play. It's not practicing. Golf is not a game of practice. You play golf. And so what I think everybody does is they don't really focus at all on the actual playing of the game. They're just constantly focused on their practice. So listen, I've been doing this a long time, and I've been lucky enough to work on tour for a very long time, over 20 years. Range sessions and how players are playing in practice rounds, on the driving range, in professional golf tournaments, in majors, does not equate to performance. It doesn't. You can hit it. Obviously, with the players that I've been lucky enough to work with, I've worked with 2 players that have been number 1 in the world for 4 years total. I've worked with 3 players that have won a combined 8 major championships, right? They all swing the golf club differently. They all do things differently. But my point behind that is performance is the only thing that matters for me. So the only thing that we're trying to do with the tour players that we work with is anything that we're doing in practice is designed to help them when they're performing. It's not designed to look better on camera. It's not designed to have the numbers look better on a launch monitor or a force plate or a 3D. You can take all that stuff and throw it out the window. So the players I work with that have won 8 majors, Ernie Els, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, do you think their warm-ups are bad? They hit it pretty good. So my point behind that is I've watched players have warm-ups on a scale of 1 to 100 that are 1,000, and they're leading the golf tournament and they don't win. And then I've had players say on Sundays, last warm-up of the week, in a major championship going, man, I just don't really feel like I'm hitting that good. And they've won. So there are 2 things for everyone listening that you need to focus on. There is your technique and there is your execution, your performance on the golf course. That's it. And I think that practicing golf, yeah, it helps. It's a vital part to getting better. Improving your technique is a vital part to getting better. Having a better golf swing is a vital part to improving your scoring. But I've been saying this a lot to our juniors over the last year. Rory McIlroy's trying to improve his golf swing. Scottie Scheffler's trying to improve his golf swing. Nelly Korda is trying to improve her golf swing. Lydia Ko is trying to improve her golf swing. So arguably the 4 best players on the men's and women's tours, they're all trying to get better with their technique. So that technique quest is constant. It's never going to change. But playing golf and how you're performing actually on the golf course is far more important than how you practice.
Yeah, so I'd like to actually sit on that for a second, if you don't mind. We had Carl Morris on, and this was basically the topic of the entire discussion. I'd like to maybe give a few examples or kind of just hammer in a little bit on, in terms of improving the actual performance, like what do you do? I know there's obviously the famous story with DJ, what he did with TrackMan's speed with the wedges and that sort of a thing, but what does that actually look like in terms of improving performance? Like what do you do?
I think that most golfers, the driving range in my opinion, over what I've seen, I think the driving range for most golfers is sacred, not the golf course. The best players in the world, the golf course is sacred. The golf course, playing the game, is sacred. I've worked with players before, top 10 in the world ranked players, and the warm-ups are bad. Halfway through the warm-up, they're like, I just want to get to the golf course. I just want to get to the golf course. I just want to get the game to start playing. The best players in the world want to play the game. They don't want to practice. They want to play the game. Yeah, obviously they know they need to practice, but the most important thing for them is playing the game. And I say this all the time to our juniors, right? If you're an NFL fan, if you've got your NFL team, or if you're a college football fan and you have your team, right? So Nick Saban, amazing job at Alabama, icon, right? Did an amazing job. New head coach, they didn't do what Bama has done in the past, right? So this year, Kalen DeBoer, right? Big year for Alabama football. They lose the first 4 games, and if every single interview he gives, he says, hey, we've looked great in practice, and our quarterback is doing great in practice, and we have 100% confidence in him because in practice he looks amazing. And he throws 3 interceptions in the first game, 2 in the second, right? How long before the media and the fans say nobody cares about what is going on in practice? The only thing we care about is what is happening in the game. So I think competitive golfers at the level that a lot of players are at that are trying to compete, trying to get on a tour, trying to get to from high school to college golf, from college golf to a tour, whatever, the playing of the game has to be more important than the practicing of the game. There is an art to playing golf. There is an art to scoring. There is an art to crafting a round of golf. There's an art to, on the golf course, knowing when to play offense and when to play defense, knowing when to take chances. The obvious question with that is you don't learn that on the driving range because there are no consequences on the driving range, right? There's no consequences. You hit a bad shot, you just pull another one over. And how many times do players go out on the golf course and you're not hitting it great early in the round in a practice on a Tuesday afternoon, and they go, you know what? I'm just going to start hitting shots on the range. I'm going to hit on the course. I'm going to hit 2 balls. I'm going to work on my game on the golf course. You work on your game on the driving range. On the golf course, the only thing you should be doing is trying to play, trying to score. What's your strategy, where you're trying to go? It shouldn't be technique, because you every time you play a round of golf, think of it like an NFL football team. NFL have, how many games do they have in the course of the year? You say you have 17 games, right? You have to play all 17 of those games in the NFL, regardless of who's hurt, regardless who's suspended, regardless of how the team's been playing. If I had $1 for every time I've heard a player say, hey, are you playing in that tournament with me? No, I'm not really hitting it that good, so I'm just going to take a couple weeks off. Do they get to do that in the NFL? Do they get to do that in the NBA?
No.
There's no other sport in the world where people are going, yeah, I'm going to take some time off because I'm not playing good. Every other sport, you're going to work through that. You're going to find a way to win. You've got to find a way to perform. Right? If Jalen Hurts blows his ACL out in the warm-up of the Super Bowl, they still have to play. They don't get to go, hey, timeout, guys. We're going to catch you guys in 2 weeks. We're going to go practice. We're going to try and get our backup quarterback ready, and then we're going to play the game. That's what golfers do. Not hitting it good. So I think if you're not playing good and you're a competitive golfer, those are the times you should be playing tournaments. So you can go out and say, okay, how do I perform? The world I live in at the tour level is 100% performance evaluated. The only thing we're judged on is performance. We're judged on performance by the player. We're judged on performance by the media. The players are judged on their performance by everybody. So how we get there, there are a lot of different ways to get there. But what I have seen is, I think a lot of players that are looking to play competitively and looking to play professionally are not focused on playing golf. They're focused on playing golf swing. And they're convinced that having a great golf swing is going to be the differentiator that gets them to the PGA Tour, that gets them to Division I college golf. But everybody, by the time you get to that level, has got a pretty good-looking golf swing.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting. Like this whole journey for me has been quite interesting, because I definitely would fall into that camp, right? Like, if I swing it better than this guy, like I can't tell you how many times I've played with someone in mini tour event or high level amateur event, whatever it is. I'm like, man, this guy's hitting it terrible. He's hitting it everywhere. And then we signed scorecards at the end, and he shot 65, and I've shot like even par. And I'm like, what just happened?
Again, using my Uncle Billy's analogy, is anybody trying to play golf the way Bubba Watson plays golf? With that footwork, shaping every single shot, every single round. The guy has played on President's Cup teams. The guy has played on winning Ryder Cup teams. He has 2 green jackets. We're not teaching it. There's no YouTube videos. There's no Instagram videos of influencers out there trying to teach you how to swing the golf club and play golf like Bubba Watson. All anybody's doing is posting YouTube and Instagram videos on how to shallow the golf club out. That's it. There's nobody doing Instagram videos on posture, alignment, right? Nobody's watching those videos. Everybody is center of mass, back the handle up, all of this stuff for shot, right? But nobody is trying to teach anybody to swing the golf club like Paul Azinger did. Guy's a major champion. No one is. So my point behind that is technique will get you so far, but you have to play golf regardless of what your technique is. You have to be able to score and perform and compete regardless of what your golf swing looks like, regardless of how you're hitting it. It's not golf is not figure skating and gymnastics. There aren't a panel of judges that every swing you make, they're going to go 10, 9-8, 9-7, 9-6. If you drive a par 4, and they're going to judge you on the style of how you drove the par 4. 9, right? Golf is not subjective in the way it's scored.
Yeah.
So your technique has to be better. But if you are going to play golf, you have to also be able to improve your performance on the golf course. And I think most golfers just aren't even thinking about that when they go to the golf course. They're just thinking about their golf swing. I think most golfers go to the golf course, they don't have a plan. They have no idea what the golf course is set up like. Like we had a group of players the other day, and we were talking to them about a tournament they played in, and the kid said, well, I'd never seen the golf course before. I'd never played there before. And I said, okay, did you go online and look at the golf course online? Did you look at pictures of the holes? Did you use Arcos or 18 birdies that you can drag the thing in? Did you do that? And he said, yeah, I probably could have prepared better. And I'm thinking, name me another sport where that would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Right? Like the other night, if the Buffalo Bills head coach said, yeah, guys, we probably could have prepared a lot better this week for this game than we did this week. What do you think the organization and the fans are going to say?
You're fired.
We could have prepared better. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, it was a really dumb decision. And yeah, I mean, we've just, as an organization and as a team, we've just got to really stop making dumb decisions when we're playing the games.
Yeah, on that topic of preparation, I think that's a really interesting one. So within the last few months, one of the things I've added into my preparation that I'd like to get your take on is, yes, say I played a practice round, but the night before the tournament or leading up into the tournament, I'll play the entire course in my mind and try and physically feel it in my hands and sit there and actually feel it. Do you have any of your guys do stuff like that? What kind of mental work do you do? And then
I think everybody is different. I think if that's helpful, you see sometimes a lot of, if you watch downhill ski racing, you'll see the skiers sometimes, on top of the hill when it's their turn, they'll be in their crouch and they've got their eyes closed and they're kind of going and they're making movements, right? Yeah. Formula One drivers, are constantly on simulators going around the track. If it's a new track, when Las Vegas a couple of years ago was a new track, the F1 drivers spent almost a year and a half, 2 years on a simulator driving around that track, because the only time they're ever going to be able to drive it is the day of the race, especially in a place like Las Vegas, right? So I think preparation and how you perform, I just think there is so much data and information available now online. You can find scorecards of courses that you're going to play. You can find YouTube videos that do flyovers. You can find animation. There are apps you can put on your phone that you can download the course and take a look at every hole, right? So preparation and preparing for rounds is something that and having a strategy. Okay, where is the wind going to be that day? How many of the par fives are you going to go to? What holes are you going to hit irons off of? What holes are you going to hit drivers off of? Where are the pin positions? Are you looking at the pin positions before you go out in the round of golf and then adjusting your strategy off of that? Because this is what the best players in the world are doing every single week. Every single week, that's what they're doing. If you want to be a competitive golfer and you want to get better, I always say to my players and the juniors that I'm working with, okay, so how badly do you want that? What are you prepared to do to get better? And I think game prepping, having a plan, having an idea of what you're trying to do, having a really good focused game plan. Brooks has always talked about, he and Ricky Elliott, his caddy, they have kind of like a 5-hole rule. And Brooks said, normally in a tour event through 5 holes, I will have played a par 4, maybe a par 5, but probably a par 3, right? So halfway through the front 9, I should have a pretty good idea of how I'm hitting it that day on the golf course, not on the range. So if I'm hitting fairways, if I'm hitting a lot of greens, if I'm giving myself a lot of good looks, if I'm under par through the first 5 holes, my strategy maybe changes going to the next part of the round, right? So if I'm even par through the first 5 and I haven't hit a lot of fairways and I'm not hitting it close, I'm not going to be super, super aggressive because I don't have it. I'm just going to say, okay, not really hitting it that great right now. I'm not really, right now I'm even, okay, let me just try and take care of the par 5s for the rest of the round, minimize the mistakes and shoot 2, 3, 4 under. because I don't have it today. But that 5-hole stretch, I think, is a really good way of thinking about that. And then the other thing is, I just think that the majority of golfers they're too aggressive. They're choosing targets, they're choosing lines, they're choosing clubs, they're choosing options that are really, really hyper aggressive. And they fail. They don't pull it off. They're trying, from an NFL quarterback, they're trying to throw balls into small windows. I always say this to our juniors, right? If you watch pro football, you're not an offensive coordinator, you're not a defensive coordinator, you're not a head coach. You probably maybe played football in high school, maybe played football in college, but as a fan, you're not involved in professional football at all. And you can watch a game on Sunday and have never been a starting quarterback in the NFL and watch your quarterback throw a pass, and you can sit on your couch and go, what is he doing? Why is he trying to do that? That is a very risky move, and you're not in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But you know that by watching it. But think about how many times as golfers we are making incredibly risky decisions on the golf course. Like it's just nothing. Like it's just nothing. Now, the average golfer is Jameis Winston. 5 interceptions, 5 touchdowns. You can't survive that.
Yeah.
I looked at a player yesterday. I was looking at scores last night, from the various tours. And the first round in India, Genio Chara shoots 4 under, right? So he shoots 4 under with a double. So he made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 birdies and an eagle and shot 4 under because he made a double and a bogey. So he makes 7 birdies and an eagle and shoots 4 under because he makes a double bogey. So the average golfer is throwing in 1, 2, 3 double bogeys around, 2, 3, 4 3-putts around. You cannot recover from that. The only way you can recover from double bogeys at the tour level is to make 7 birdies and an eagle on top of the double that you threw in. That's the only way you can recover.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, that's the other, what I've been figuring out from this, that I don't want to say bogey avoidance is more important than making birdies, but I'm a kind of guy, I'm a great 4-ball partner. Like, we won our 4-ball here, and I can make 7 birdies and shoot even par. And it's just ridiculous. Like, that's just ridiculous.
Do you know what percentage of the time tour players make bogey if they get in trouble off the tee? What percentage?
Probably not much. 20.
80. Tour players, when they get in trouble off the tee, make bogey 80% of the time. Now, you would have thought that number was smaller, and you would have thought your brain immediately goes to par. They're making bogey 80% of the time.
Yeah, but they're not making double. Interesting. Yeah, that's a really...
Tour players, on average, what percentage of the time, how many birdies per round do you think PGA Tour players make, on average?
4.2.
3.5, and 80% of them are on the par 5s. From 100 to 130, some Mark Brody stat. Average distance away from the hole in feet on the PGA Tour is what?
31 feet?
20. Tour players don't necessarily hit it as good as the fans think they do. Mm-hmm. But their misses are exceptional. So, yes, if you followed Rory McIlroy around for the course of a year and followed every single round inside the ropes, you would be blown away by some of the shots that he hit. You would also be blown away by some of the poor shots he hit. But what would just be staggering to you is how average everything looked, and then you add it up and you're like, the average is unbelievable. Playing golf is the most important thing. It is a game that you are trying to play. And I just don't think the majority of golfers, but certainly players that aren't on a tour, that are trying to get to that next competitive level, I just see players that think the only way they're going to do that is to start at the bottom of the mountain and just climb to the top by just through sheer effort. I'm just going to run and jump fast enough. And if I just run and jump fast enough, I can make it over this. There's no planning. There's no thought process. There's no formula. There's no recipe. It's just, I'm just going to do it. And the amount of 16-year-old kids that I see in the course of a year whose parents tell me they're the hardest working person on the planet, how many times do you think a year I hear that? So I hear them like, you're never going to meet someone that works harder or practices more than my son. I'm like, your son practices more than Scottie Scheffler. He works harder than Scottie Scheffler. Everybody works hard. So I think most golfers think hard work equates to performance. Working on things that are going to help you on the golf course, help your performance. Posting another video of you on the driving range hitting golf balls on your Instagram, great. Which shooting the tournament? Which shooting the tournament? Show me another video of you in the gym, another video of you practicing, another video of that. What'd you shoot in the tournament? Because the only thing that matters is what you shoot in the tournament. Doesn't matter what it looked like on Instagram when you were practicing. None of that matters.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have definitely fallen victim to a lot of those things and quite frankly wasn't even thinking about it. I mean, I think even in the first few episodes of this show, like I've been trying to quantify it in terms of metrics of, you know, stuff away from the golf course. Like, you know, hey, you gotta have this ball speed number. Hey, you gotta have this. Hey, you gotta have that. And I think in the last few episodes, I've really found that there is no formula, and the only thing that actually does matter is what you can do when there's a pencil and when the score actually matters.
I mean, if there was a formula, you would look at, there are instructors out there that have very specific models of what they want golf swings to look like, positions that they want every golf club in, right?
Are there any of those for you? Like, are there, posture, grip, setup?
Listen, I think there are things that you can generalize, that there are some characteristics that good players do, surely, right? Obviously, there are characteristics. But again, going back to what I was talking about Bubba Watson and what my uncle Billy said, is there anybody right now trying to emulate Scottie Scheffler's footwork? I don't see any videos online with people trying to teach Scottie Scheffler's footwork. I see a lot of people online, P4, P6, with all these phrases and center of mass and all of these fancy terms. But is anybody trying to teach people to swing the golf club like a lot of really good players do it? They're not. So I think you've got to be very careful if you are trying to emulate another player. You need to know what that player can physically do. You need to know what you can physically do. You need to know if you can get your wrist and everything. I mean, you talk to Greg Rose and Dave Phillips out at TPI, and the amount of injuries they're seeing from people blowing their wrists out, blowing their shoulders out, blowing their knees out, blowing they're trying to get into some of these extreme positions that all these people are doing on social media and on YouTube. So you've got to be very, very careful to make sure that if you are going to go down a rabbit hole of trying to emulate another player's golf swing or someone else's theory on what they're trying to do, you need to know whether you can do any of that physically, right? You need to know if your body can sustain any of those movement patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, I ran into that personally whenever I was trying to strengthen my club face, and I basically destroyed my wrist trying to get a stronger club face. And I was already very neutral to begin with, and it was like, oh, well, this is clearly going to make me hit it straighter, because you see Brooks doing it, and you see DJ doing it, and Hovland and all these guys. But
here's the thing. Nobody is telling them to do that. They do that naturally.
Yep.
Right? They do that on their own. Right? And I think that's a great example of someone that you brought up, Victor Hovland. I mean, Vic is going down the rabbit hole right now. Vic's a member here at my club. I've talked extensively to Vic about a lot of the things that he's trying to do. And if you look at what Vic is trying to do, is he's trying to get better. He is trying to get to the next level. But Martin Keimer tried to do that. Martin Keimer won a U.S. Open and a Players' Championship in the same year and tried to change his ball flight from a fade to a draw so that he could compete at Augusta, and he went into the wilderness for a number of years.
Yeah, he did.
So you can go down a rabbit hole of trying to get better and improve and get worse.
Yeah, I think that's just a really interesting point whenever it comes to, being very conscientious of what it is that you're actually trying to do and move the needle. And I want to be really conscientious of your time. I appreciate you taking the time. I know we probably need to wrap up here, but you've really given me a lot of things to think about, and I'm starting to notice a trend of the coaches who work with higher level players are talking about such different things than the coaches that are working with not lower level players, just different levels. I think it's really interesting the emphasis that you all, you, Carl Morris, like a lot of you guys place on the golf course and how important that actually is.
I'll use Nick Saban again as an example and a great quote that Nick Saban said, talent will get you in the room. Talent will get you in the conversation, right? So good golf swing will get you in the conversation. We don't see now with YouTube, social, I don't see junior golfers, high school golfers, college golfers with extreme grips, with extreme setups, with extreme ball positions, with really fundamentally weird looking golf swings anymore. We just don't see that. We see the majority of the college golfers on the men's side that I see right now all tend to be six foot tall to 6'4". They all tend to have high 180, low 190 ball speed. They all tend to have pretty good setups. They all tend to have pretty good grips. They all tend to have pretty good golf swings. And they don't shoot 64, right? So aesthetics and style will only get you so far. I sent something to my team out in Dubai the other day, Ludwig Oberg, who I just think is an absolute stud. I've watched him hit golf balls up close. He played with Brooks in the Ryder Cup on Sunday. Got to walk 18 holes inside the rope to watch him hit balls. Brooks won that match, but watched him at the Ryder Cup. I know Peter Henson, who's his coach, who played the European Tour. Joe Scovrin, who used to caddy for Ricky Fowler, is his caddy now. So to me, Ludwig Oberg reminds me of Adam Scott in 2001. Unbelievable looking golf swing, a kid that everybody thinks just shouldn't be able to miss, right? That's how good he is.
Yeah.
And last week in San Diego, with that golf swing, Ludwig shoots 63 on the first day and looks like he can't miss. And with that golf swing on the weekend, shoots 74, 79.
Yeah.
With that golf swing.
Yeah.
That everybody in the game can't say enough good things about. And I sit there. If Ludwig Oberg is on the driving range and I'm waiting for a player, I will watch him hit golf balls. And he shot 74, 79 on the weekend. Now, what everybody will go, well, the conditions were really bad on Saturday. And so as good as the golf swing is, as good as it looks,
that's not everything.
He can still shoot 74. And I think this kid is the next superstar. I will be shocked in 5 years if Ludwig Oberg hasn't won at least one major. At a minimum. That's how good the talent and the technique is. But he still shoots 74, 79 with that golf swing.
What would you encourage him to do differently? Just
nothing.
Work or just keep going?
Nothing.
Yeah.
The game is hard. He's a rookie. He was playing college golf 2 years ago. Torrey Pine's a tough golf course. He's playing against some of the best players in the world. And it is a game. How many times does a football team come in and they go, dude, we were flat today. What are the announcers saying in the third quarter? No adjustments at halftime. They got ran out of the building at the beginning of the game, and they never really recovered. They got behind early, and they just didn't recover. Is the quarterback not great? He's still great, right? But they got beat. The Buffalo Bills got beat on Sunday by the Kansas City Chiefs. And Josh Allen is Ludwig Oberg. He's what everybody wants.
Great analogy.
He is the quarterback that every team wants, and he cannot get it done. They can't get it done. So from a golf standpoint, there are players winning that don't necessarily have the best looking golf swings, that don't have a style that anybody's trying to emulate. and they're great players. Everybody is trying to be the next Tiger Woods or the next Rory McIlroy, right? That's what everybody's trying to do. Okay, who is going to be the next Rory? Who's going to be the next Tiger? Who's going to be the next Matt Kuchar? Who's going to be a guy that's played on every President's Cup and Ryder Cup team for the last 15, 20 years? He's won the Players' Championship. He's won he's won over 50 million golf. Is anybody trying to emulate Matt Kuchar's golf swing? Guy's one of the best players on the PGA Tour in the last 20 years.
Yes.
And nobody is trying to emulate that. Everybody's trying to swing like Rory. Everybody's trying to swing like Adam Scott. But a guy that has had an unbelievable career. I worked with Pat Perez for 4 years, and Pat Perez never lost his card on the PGA Tour in 20 years. And in the Tiger, Rory, Phil, VJ, Ernie Els, Retief Goosen era, he won 3-4 times. And what does everybody say? Well, you should have won more. You know what Pat always says? Win once on the PGA Tour. Pat did not hit it as far. Pat does not have a golf swing that anybody's emulating. The guy Barry Lane kept his card, never lost his card on the European Tour. Had like an over 20-year career. You wouldn't even know Barry Lane and what his golf swing looked like. Barry Lane's one of the greatest ball strikers I've ever seen. I was lucky enough to work with him. Ryder Cupper, won a bunch of times in Europe. Great player. No one is trying to swing the golf club like Colin Montgomery. Guy won 8, 9 Order of Merits in a row. Guy was on every Ryder Cup team for 20 years. One of the greatest pure ball strikers of all time. Had as much control over his golf ball as Tiger Woods. And nobody is trying to swing the golf club like Colin Montgomery. The guy was a machine when it came to ball striking.
Say the same with even Heinrich Stenson, right? It's kind of a similar kind of deal.
And listen, there are players out there that everybody in social and YouTube that they use and they post and they put up as great swingers of the golf club, right?
Yep.
Some of those players that they put up have the same amount of PGA Tour wins as my father. One, right? And I look at some of these golf swings that they put up and people put up and this is the benchmark, this is a benchmark, this is a benchmark. I'm like, yeah, from a style and aesthetic standpoint, you're 100% right. I love that golf swing. But why does that player win? Why doesn't that player win a lot? And why does this player, who doesn't have this good looking of his golf swing, who might not even be in as great a shape? And Harris English has got 5 wins on the PGA Tour. 5.
Mm-hmm.
He's played on President's Cup team, Ryder Cup teams. The guy is anybody looking at his golf swing as something? But he gets it done on the golf course. And the only thing that matters, if you're a recreational golfer, if you're a competitive golfer trying to play, amateur, or you are a professional golfer, the only thing that matters is your performance on the golf course with a scorecard when you're keeping score. That's it. How you're swinging the golf club, what your backswing looks like, what your club face looks like, how much you're shallowing it out, how much you're getting the face and center of mass, all of the stuff that is currently in the vernacular of golf instruction. None of it matters unless you perform on the golf course. The rest of it doesn't matter. The Buffalo Bills are at home this year.
Yeah, they are.
Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, they're at home this year. They're not in the Super Bowl. They had unbelievable years. Lamar Jackson's a generational talent. Can't win a Super Bowl. The great ones win Super Bowls in the quarterback position. The great ones win them. And the great ones win golf tournaments. Some of them have beautiful textbook-looking golf swings. Tommy Fleetwood on my podcast recently, you can't find a better golf swing than that. It's an embarrassment of riches how good that golf swing is. And I believe Tommy Fleetwood's going to win a major championship. I would look at that golf swing and go, how's that guy not win a major championship with that golf swing? As good as he hits it.
Yeah, same.
Right? But there is just so much more to this game than your technique and your golf swing. And yeah, having a repeatable golf swings, good club face positions, great impact positions, fundamental to improving. But Ludwig Oberg has a pretty good impact position and shot 74, 79 on the weekend. And I think he will win at least 1 or 2 times this year. I think he will have legit chances to win major championships because that's how good it is. But with that golf swing, I said to my dad once I'll leave you with this, in the 90s when my dad was working with Greg Norman, who was at that time pre-Tiger. And he shot 75 in a major once or a tournament. And I said to my dad, how the hell can this guy shoot 75? He shoots 66 with his eyes closed. And he goes, yeah, he just shot 75 with his eyes wide open. Just shot 75 with his eyes wide open. Golf happens to everybody. Bad swings happen to everybody. And I think the difference between the average golfer and the tour player is we expect tour players to make bad swings. We expect them to hit bad shots. They're not robots. They're going to have bad days. They're going to have bad warm-ups. Their golf swings are going to be not in the best positions, right? We know and expect that. The average 15 handicapper is shocked when he hits it in the water off the first hole. He can't believe he hit it in the water off the first hole. Just cannot believe he hit it out of bounds. Yep. He's just blown away by the fact that he hit it out of bounds. They don't expect anything bad to happen. All we're doing at the tour level is planning for mistakes, contingencies. We're commercial airplane pilots. Okay, how can we plan for everything that could go wrong? And I think what everybody is trying to do, and I think you are probably guilty of this like a lot of players, that you are going to try and practice until it's perfect. But have you ever thought about practicing it so much that you can't get it wrong? Because it's never going to be perfect. So practice until you can't get it wrong. Practice until you know how to do it.
It's a Nick Saban.
As opposed to practicing to make it perfect, because it will never be perfect. The game will never be perfect. The game is random. Right? You can practice and hit it great on the range, spend an hour hitting 7 irons. It can look great on camera. And then you can go out on the golf course and it might be till the back 9 you actually even hit a 7 iron. But the only thing you've done is work technique with a 7 iron. That's it.
Yeah. No,
you cannot improve at golf in the same way that you can improve in basketball if all you do is shoot free throws. So if every time you're trying to prepare for a basketball game, the only thing you do is shoot free throws, and then after the game, the only thing you do is go back and practice free throws. Tell me how good a basketball player you would be if the only thing you did was evaluate everything you did off of how your free throws are. And the only thing you practice are free throws.
You'd suck.
Well, it would be hard to play the game of basketball if all you knew how to do was shoot a free throw. If you didn't know how to block, if you didn't know how to set a pick, if you didn't know how to come off a screen, if you didn't work on your footwork, if you didn't work on plays and offense and defense and all of that stuff, if all you did was just – so you shoot 85 on the golf course, what does everybody want to do? Go straight back to the driving range and shoot free throws.
That's a great analogy. That's a great analogy, man. Yeah.
Nico Darras, who works with us, Nico has a website called Golf Blueprint where he creates a bunch of practice games. He's helped John Rahm and a bunch of tour players and stuff. And I learned that from Nico. Nico's not a golfer. He came from baseball. He's like, it's like trying to play professional golf, get to the tour level, and the only thing you do is shoot free throws.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I know you have lessons and stuff, but this was awesome, man. I really enjoy this conversation, and it's certainly given me a lot of really good things to think about.
Listen, play golf, right? It is a game that we are trying to play. And our job as golfers, and my job as an instructor, and your job as a player, is to try and do things in our practice and do things in our preparation that are going to help us fundamentally play the game better, not just make things look better on film, make numbers look better on launch monitors, 3D, force plates, all of that. Great. And the only thing that matters is what happens on the golf course.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, brother.